'Cause I'm sick of this. I'm so tired. I don't want to fight anymore. Not with any of you. Not even with Aaron.
Solitude can be an addicting drug, and the woman who possesses the female titan knows it well. I believe this to be the case for each female titan shifter. Before we start this video, more than half of you who watch my videos aren't subscribed. So if you genuinely enjoyed this content, make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And also hit that notification bell. You'll be notified every time I upload a video. Doing all of those things will help the channel grow, and I just wouldn't be able to thank you guys enough if you did. But please, please, please support the channel. It'll bring more people to the channel, more people that we can interact with, and people to join the community in general. But without any further distractions, let's jump to the video. You see, Ymir Fritz and Annie Leonhardt, whether you want to believe me or not, share similar traits. They're traits of being alone. But there is a difference. One willingly chooses solitude, and the other was forced to. Annie Leonhardt thrives in her solitude, keeping her distance from her fellow warrior candidates and eventual comrades that she would gain in the cadet corps, while Ymir subconsciously suffers in hers. One chooses to live this way, while the other does not. This brings me to my next point. I believe the female titan is Ymir's representation of that fact. Ymir Fritz, in her time, was born alone and a slave, and so was Annie. One, a slave to their king, and the other, a slave to her father's ideals. I'm going to go off track for a bit and bring up Eren Yeager. When Eren entered the paths, he held Ymir and asked her if she had led him there. Led him to walk down this path of pain and destruction so she had someone who could understand her and relate to her. But why couldn't this be the same for Annie? Just like every Eldian is connected through paths, couldn't this just be another one of those intrinsic connections? To be led down a certain path, especially after inheriting one of the Nine Titans, just to be able to understand Ymir a bit, even if the character in question doesn't realize it themselves. Looking back to the early stages of Attack on Titan and knowing what we know about Annie from the point we're at now, everything just feels so different. Once thought to be an overly depressed, gloomy girl who he thought took pleasure in killing people, only did so out of her desperation to get back to the person she cared for most, her adoptive father. You see, Annie was born from an affair between a Marleyan mother and Eldian father. Left abandoned at the internment zone for Eldians, she was taken in by her adoptive father, who surprisingly had the same circumstances to her. You would think that this fact would have given them something to bond over, but the reality was very different. Annie was used and abused in her early childhood, raised to become an amazing fighter and a cold-blooded killer, all to give her father, who I refer to as Leonhardt, a chance at a better life, by potentially making her into the perfect warrior candidate, which she would later become. Because of her upbringing by Leonhardt, Annie became cold, distant, and I want to say, seemingly unfeeling. The reason I say that are for things we will see later on in her life, the cracks that begin to show in her character. But I want to stick to this portion for a bit longer. As I said before, Annie became cold, distant, and unfeeling. She grew up to show no emotion, with a dead look on her face at nearly all times. One day, while training with Leonhardt to get back at him for the way she was treated, she injured him to the point that he had to walk with a cane for the rest of his life. Not able to walk normally or use his body like he used to be able to, you would think one would be depressed, but it was the opposite. Leonhardt was elated that Annie had grown to be this strong. All the years of literally beating martial arts into her had paid off to him in his eyes. This is the strength he wanted her to have for his own selfish goals. This is what formed Annie's worldview and how she behaved in the series moving forward. Not caring about anyone or anything, whether people lived or died, thinking that life had no inherent value, not even her own. And then a day came when something in Mr. Leonhardt had changed. The day Annie was to leave for the island, Leonhardt fell to his knees with tears in his eyes as Annie looked on with her usual cold stare, unfazed. He proceeded to apologize for everything he put the young girl through, claiming the things he had taught her were wrong. He told her to forget about becoming a warrior and an honorary Marleyan, and all he wanted was for her to come back alive, stating that even if the world was against her, he will always be on her side. As we know, for her to forget about being a warrior, it was too little too late. But the words he spoke to her that day got through, and this was the first time she had felt something. As she looked down on this man with tears in his eyes, she saw her father, a man who saw her as his daughter, and this made Annie herself break into tears, with her promising him that she will return. This is the first time we see that cold demeanor fractured for even a moment. I believe this is because at the end of the day, we're all susceptible to change, no matter the age. Because in this moment, Annie and Leonhardt changed, if only a little. As we all know, Ymir Fritz was the first Titan, which means within her was a female Titan. I believe her relationship with the king, Karl Fritz, paralleled Annie's relationship with her father. But unlike Annie, Ymir wasn't so fortunate as to have King Fritz change for her. As I said earlier, Ymir was a slave, and that fact never changed, even after her death. But that's something I'll touch on in the Founding Titan video. Ymir was a young girl who seemed to be rejected by not only her king, but fellow slaves as well. Ymir really didn't get to choose her solitude, as it chose her instead. The day she released the pigs to the day she died, Ymir was alone, never to have anyone care for her, except for maybe her kids. But we don't even know that much, because we never got to see that relationship develop. As everyone knows, after Ymir's death, she went to the dimension called the Paths that transcends time. Stuck there for what seems like years, I believe Ymir picked and chose certain Titan shifters, with similar traits to herself, albeit with a little more freedom than she had. This may be why Annie was chosen as the female Titan. While Annie and Solitude went hand in hand, she inherently chose that path for herself. Annie was always surrounded by comrades, whether it be her fellow warriors or the people that cared for her in the 104th Cadet Corps. While speaking of her allies in the Cadet Corps, Annie tended to keep her distance. She didn't want to build relationships with people that she would potentially have to kill someday. A fact she relayed to Reiner when she told him that all of the things they were doing were going to get his friends killed. As she knew Reiner had genuinely built relationships with the Eldians on Pair D, she kept her distance for a good reason, so she would be able to complete the mission assigned to them without having any hesitation to get it done at all, because that hesitation could get her killed, and she would never be able to return to her father. But as we know, this wouldn't last. We saw her hesitate to take Marco's ODM gear, and actually cry while doing so, and we saw her spare Armin. This is what she wanted to avoid. To remain in solitude would bring her to her ultimate goal, but at the end of the day, she's human. She has emotions too, and they got the best of her, which would end up getting her captured. Being defeated by Eren, she only thought of one thing, her father. While encasing herself in her crystal with nothing but that memory, she once again secluded herself, without being able to converse with anyone for years, a solitude like no other. After 4 years of being in this crystallized state, Annie was finally freed from this never-ending solitude when Eren undid all the hardening. We find out she wasn't completely alone, as she was able to hear the voices of Armin and Hitch whenever they would come down to talk. Something Annie would tell Hitch herself, whether it be among themselves or directly to her, letting us know she was actually conscious the entire time. That must have been hell, stating that when she didn't hear their voices, it was only darkness. She eventually ends up leaving Hitch's side shortly after having this conversation with her, but not before telling Hitch her story about the way she grew up in Marley. More so, to disprove Hitch's theory that she did it to save the world. But no, Annie didn't care about that. Her only care in this world was for her father. As Annie said, she would do it all again if it takes her back to him. After leaving Hitch's side and then leaving with our alliance, Annie and Mikasa have a confrontation about the situation at hand. And believe me, this is different than the last time. It's not about skill or power, it's about ideals and what's at stake for the world. She asked Mikasa if she is willing to kill Eren if it came down to it. Could she possibly put her feelings to the side to save the world, to kill him if necessary? Or would she try to stop Annie and the others if they attempted to kill him themselves? We see the answer on Mikasa's face. We know in that moment, she will stop them at all costs. She isn't convinced Eren is beyond saving. She still sees a fleeting hope. This will be important for what I'm about to say next. After all the fighting that took place with the alliance that was formed is then revealed by Hanji that it's too late for everyone in Marley. They'll all be trampled by the rumbling before they can save anyone. This information completely breaks Annie, because if Marley was trampled, then surely her father is dead. This is just the reality of the situation, and I believe the person who looks at reality the clearest in this show is Annie. She falls to her knees and breaks down, something we've never seen from a character before, and something I'm sure we were all surprised to see. Annie ends up giving up. She states that she's getting off the ship, because we know the only reason for her to fight was to see her father again. And if he's dead, then what reason does she have left? Hanji tells her Magav sacrificed himself knowing Marty was doomed. He didn't do it for Marty, or the people he was close to, but the road at hand, for the people of the names he had never known. With these words in her head, Annie looks at Mikasa again with tears in her eyes and a vulnerability that we've never seen before. She tells her she's tired, just so tired. She's tired of fighting. She doesn't want to fight with anyone, not Mikasa, not even with Eren, not with anyone. These words are immensely important, and I believe a catastrophic change in her character. I believe this is the end of her solitude. Annie was always a character, since the beginning of the series, known for her combat ability, who everyone thought found joy in fighting and fighting alone. As Annie said, nothing else mattered to her. For these words to leave her, had to signify a change within her, within a female titan. She asked Mikasa again, if she tried to kill Eren, would she stop her? But you realize that she isn't asking out of revenge for her father, out of revenge for anything, but to genuinely save the world. I believe what Hanji said had resonated within her. There was no anger in her eyes, just tears of a girl hurt by the cruel world she was born into. Her solitude gone, and only finding herself among individuals with the same goal in mind, to save the world. This is Annie Leonhardt, the female titan who overcame solitude. Let's finish this up talking about Ymir Fritz. She was the original founding titan after all. She was kept in solitude her entire life. And as I said, I believe Ymir lives on through these shifters, to experience things she's never got to. Until her dying day, and even after, Ymir was never free to make any choice of her own. Even with all the power in the world, she was always controlled. I believe Ymir got the chance to experience the breaking of solitude for Annie Leonhardt, to reach for something that was unobtainable. We've seen this happen before when Eren embraced her in the paths, to give her a choice for the first time in her life. Ymir experiences things through paths, through the titan shifters chosen. So when Annie broke that solitude of her own, I believe Ymir did as well. You see, solitude isn't an inherently bad thing. Some people thrive in it, some prefer it. The only time solitude becomes unhealthy is when it's either not of your own volition, or when there is not a healthy balance between it and being surrounded and engaging with others. No one can thrive in only solitude. You need people around you to help you grow, to know you aren't alone. And whatever struggles you may have to endure, we're not alone. If you have friends, call them. If you have family, go try to see them as much as possible. If you have a lover, go spend time with them. There's no reason to stay alone, to keep yourself in the dark forever. That darkness can become an endless pit if you don't find the strength to reach up, stand on your own legs, and grasp at what's right in front of you. Don't think you can solve every issue alone. Annie learned that mistake, and don't let it kill you like it did for Ymir. There's always going to be someone standing right there with you, in the dark, and even in the light. Truthfully, you're never alone. There will always be someone with you. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and share the video among your friends. It'll help it in the algorithm, and let it be seen by more people who enjoy content like this like you and I do. And until next time, thanks for watching.